Floyd, they do the job. Good guys. Good. That's great.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Moscow Board of Adjustments meeting for Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024. And we will start with approval of minutes, which was from June 26th. I actually was not present at that meeting. These look pretty straightforward. Anybody have any comments, questions, or scribners?
Everything looked fine for me, Joe.
All right.
Move to approve?
I hear a motion.
Second?
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Me? I wasn't there.
I'll stay. I wasn't here either.
But it passes. They are corrected. The second order of business is just public comment. If there is anybody who has any topic that's not on our agenda tonight that would like to say something, you are welcome to do so. Seeing none, we will move on to item number 3, which is a variance on 906 Nursery Street.
Good afternoon, I guess good evening, board members. As the chair stated, tonight we have a variance application requesting a variance at 1906 Nursery Street. The applicant has Habitat for Humanity. They're requesting a variance to reduce the rear yard setback and construct a single-level, zero-step entrance home with ADA accessibility, with an ADA accessible bathroom, hallway, doorway, hallways, doorways, and bedrooms all on one level. They're proposing to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 10 feet on the south side of the property. It's more just the southwestern side of the property. You'll see when I get to the site plan what I mean. All other setbacks of the R4 zoning district are to be met. This is the subject property. I'm sure you're familiar. This entire block here is owned by Moscow Affordable Housing Trust. There have been a number of houses built and constructed and numerous lots throughout the site. Subject property is here just on the northwest corner, adjacent to Palouse Prairie Charter School up here. Across over here is the Grove apartment complex. So just adjacent to Nursery and Powers Avenue. Zoning of the subject property is R4. As you are all familiar, R4 provides for the most intensive residential land uses permitted in the community. The R4 zoning designation is to be applied where activity levels are high and adequate public service or public facilities are available, especially near the University of Idaho campus and Central Business Zoning District. R4 also requires adequate transportation access, should be given high priority in determining the appropriate location for R4 zones. And the uses permitted within R4 include single-family dwellings, two-family dwellings, twin homes, townhouses, multifamily dwellings. All permitted, also permitted are professional offices, bed and breakfasts, and daycare facilities. Within the R4 zoning district, the minimum lot size for a single-family home, two-family home, or multifamily dwellings, the minimum lot size is 5,000 square feet. Minimum lot width is 50 feet for single-family homes. And the setbacks required for a typical single-family lot are 15 feet in the front, 5 feet on the side, and a 20-foot rear setback. So the side setback is a combined total of 15 with no side being less than 5, just for clarification. This is the subject property once again, a little closer in. This is a plat map of the subject property. As you can see, there's a utility easement in the front 10 feet of the property, adjacent to the alley. And then 2 lots, very small twin home lots to the east. This is a photo of the subject property looking from Nursery to the east. And this is a photo of the subject property from Powers Avenue, where the cul-de-sac terminates over by Palouse Prairie Charter School. So this is the site plan. It's a little bit small probably for people to read from far away. However, as you can see, the front setback here is met at 15 feet from off of Powers Avenue. There's a street side setback of 13 feet. a side setback over here of 5 feet, and where they're seeking the variance is here in the rear. As you can see, this lot is a little bit challenging in the shape. You have this longer tail section here, which does allow for the adequate setback. However, this corner over here is where they're seeking the variance. They're just shy of making that 20 feet as you taper off to the western side of this corner over here. Oops. This corner here. This is a floor plan of the subject property, living room, dining room in the front. As you can see, there are 3 bedrooms, 1, 2, and 3. Additional bathroom in the master and another bathroom along the hallway here, and a kitchen. As you can see, it's all one level. Again, that's to be ADA compliant. Here is a north and south elevation of the subject property. As you can see, single level. Allowed height in an R4 zoning designation is 40 feet. This obviously doesn't even come close to that. West and east elevation, same case, single level home. So staff recommendation tonight is to hold the public hearing, and staff recommends approval of the variance at 1906 Nursery Street with no conditions, and then direct staff to prepare the relevant criteria and standards as you see fit to approve a public at the next upcoming meeting. And I would be happy to take any questions you have.
Anybody have questions for staff?
No, you did a good job answering all my questions. Thanks, Amy.
Super.
I have just a quick clarification on this, is a side yard, is that correct?
That's correct. Yep. So when we look at site planning, as long as the front and the rear are opposite of each other, where the front door is configured is irrelevant. It will be addressed off of where the front door exists, but when you're looking at site planning, as long as the front and the rear are on opposite ends of each other, the other 2 sides can be considered side setbacks.
So the front yard is actually addressed as Powers?
So the front for setback, yes, would be for setback purposes is here. However, the front door, I believe, is over on this side.
Okay. And the road that goes through this subdivision is actually classified as an alley?
Correct.
All of it?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess I'm wondering why that is.
This was actually developed as a PUD. The Moscow Affordable Housing Trust had a plan in mind, I think, at one point, and configured the lots with those plans in mind. But I think since that time, plans have changed, things have pivoted, and so ultimately they have an agreement with Habitat for Humanity as far as the land goes. But when that was originally platted with an alley, it was to meet the needs of the Moscow Affordable Housing Trust.
And it's 24 feet wide then.
Correct.
So Amy, this is kind of a silly question, I guess, but I'm going to ask it anyhow. Who came up with and what rationalization is there for setbacks, whether they be 5 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet? I guess most specifically for the back end, it's 20 feet. Why is it 20 instead of 30 or 15?
Sure. I think in most cases, especially when you look at higher density properties, like with the R4 zoning district, the front setback is shorter to allow for more density on the lot. With the rear yard setback, I think it typically allows for room for recreation in a multifamily scenario where you're looking a lot where you have multiple dwelling units. That rear yard setback can also serve as the open space requirement. So there's a lot of different purposes. I think in an R1 scenario where the lot size is bigger, it provides for a bigger backyard and kind of meets the character of that neighborhood. With an R4 situation, it varies depending on what's being built there, whether it's a single family or a multifamily, but that space can serve both the purpose of a rear yard for a single family dwelling or open space requirement for multifamily.
Well, that's interesting. That makes more sense. So I would have guessed it's a privacy issue or something.
Yeah, I think it does provide privacy as well for adjacent property owners, for sure.
All right, thank you.
I have one more question, just because I know Powers Avenue kind of becomes this little cul-de-sac dead end.
If it was an apartment.
Once this full set of plans gets permitted with the city, I noticed that the city is recommending approval with no conditions. Is there any issue that the city will see with landscaping on that corner and site view. Only because we've got, it's only off the street. It's not off the street a full distance, and Powers is a school.
Sure.
And that's a crosswalk. And this site, the topography actually drops downhill as you go south, which just in and of itself impedes vision. So is there a need for a condition for that? Or is that something that gets dealt with during, the actual plan review?
So in terms of site triangle and site, safety and streets and that sort of thing, on every corner of an intersection, say where Nursery and Powers intersects, there's a 30-foot site triangle. So if you project out the corner of that curve out and then measure back 30 feet and draw kind of a triangle. So essentially what you're going to be doing is you'd extend this out and extend this out so they meet at a 90-degree angle, measure back 30 feet on both sides, and then you basically would draw a straight line through here. So that's your site triangle. Nothing can be placed in the site triangle over a certain height. And so that allows for safety on with traffic coming in and out of Powers, that it ensures that corner won't have any permanent structure in there that would obstruct view.
Okay, so that 31.55 diameter dimension on here is not related to the 30-foot
No, but I would-
site triangle.
I would
That's
imagine,
off the house, right?
I would imagine that I'm not sure why the architect put that on there, but I would imagine that the site triangle would probably mimic that line pretty close to it when projected out.
Okay.
Because it's a single family, are they going to be subject to the buffers for an R4 zone? Because it's R4 zoning?
So if there were adjacent properties that had different zoning and different requirements, then there would be that requirement for a buffer. In this case, there really isn't a need for it. They've got that street right between both the school and the residential home. So
Perfect.
Any other questions for staff? Thanks, Amy.
of course, I'll leave these up here for you too, just in case you want to reference those.
With that, we'll open this up for the public hearing. Would the applicant care to come up and talk about the request?
All looking at each other.
Rock, paper, scissors. Please state your name and address into the mic so that it's on the record.
I'm Jennifer Wallace, 838 Pheasant Run, Moscow.
Thank you.
I'm the executive director with Palouse Habitat for Humanity. We are a contractor that builds affordable single-family homes in Layton, Whitman counties. We've been in operation since 1992, and we've completed 23 homes. This one will be our 25th that we're planning on. The future homeowner, Jake, is right here with us tonight, and our construction supervisor, Nolan Corlett, is here as well. So we're happy to answer any questions. This lot is our first in partnership with the Moscow Affordable Housing Trust. Now, the trust has just changed their name, and you're going to have to forgive me. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it
Hills and Rivers.
Thank you, Ivy. It is reflective of its increased mission expanding into Whitman County, and just underscores the need for affordable housing in our community. We're excited to be partnering with the Land Trust for the first time. We hope it's one of many with them. It is a challenging lot to build on, but I'm really proud of the work that my team has put together to try to design a home that will both fit our homeowners' needs and future Moscow residents' needs. Trying to build our homes to ADA compliance is a goal of ours, whether we have someone in the home who has an immediate need for accessibility. We know from our home repair program that where we focus on right now providing ramps, accessibility improvements for low and very low income homeowners around our region, that there's a significant need for homes that are designed to age in place safely. Zero-step entrances, 4-foot wide doorways, accessible bathrooms, accessible bedrooms. So we've just tried to build it into our program as a matter of course. That's our vision for this project. It'll be our first with the Land Trust, and we're really hoping that we can break ground just as soon as possible on this project. Any questions?
No.
Nolan or Jake, anything you guys would like to add? Okay, thank you very much for considering this request.
Thank you. Would anybody care to come up and speak in favor of this application? Would anybody care to speak against or independent or non-directional? Neutral, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and let the board deliberate.
Well, Joe, I think Jennifer hit the nail on the head. It's a very difficult lot to work with. And I think it's a great idea when we can get a lot that's tough to work with, to build on, and make accommodations so something can be built there. And Habitat for Humanity does a great job of finding lots that may be lower priced because of the difficulty in building there and utilizing those spaces. And I think I'm in favor of the application of the variance because of those things. Not only is it a corner lot, which makes it more difficult, but also the topography makes it more difficult. And I think it fits the reasoning for a variance very well.
I would agree with that. The minimum lot size, as was pointed out, is 5,000 square feet. This one's 5,003. And the bottom third is a little peninsula that, unless you were to build in levels, which kind of goes against their plan, I completely agree with you. It's, and it's not like it's an overly large house fit on a tight lot. It's, I agree for those very same reasons. Any other thoughts?
I would say not only is it a thoughtfully considered application of that lot, but Habitat for Humanity is a wonderful community asset that we want to support, and I'm in favor of it as well.
And I don't think it's that large of a variance. I don't think it's that big of a step to go from the 20 feet to losing, that's 9 feet short.
Right. And I actually had a clarification for staff earlier today. There's really only three criteria that we look at. And since there's only three, not seven, the three of them, they seem obviously okay to me because the special condition is obviously the atypical shape of the lot and the topography. So that makes one okay. Two relates to that and they've compensated for it. And three is definitely, for the public's interest to do it. So.
Yeah. Oh, Joe, I'd move in favor of the variance and ask also that we ask staff to produce for our looking at the relevant criteria and standards.
Without condition.
With no conditions, correct?
With no conditions, yes.
So I have a motion.
Second?
I have a second.
Jerry. That was Jerry.
Jerry's the second. So we'll start with Ivy.
I'm voting?
Yes.
Okay, I'm in favor. Aye.
Aye, Tim?
Aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. We are done with the first one.
Good.
Now they can go get busy.
Go break ground.
Cut the ribbon.
All right, Amy, we are to the second one, which is a CUP.
Okay, give me just 1 second to switch out to the other presentation I have for you. Okay, the second application before you tonight is a conditional use permit for 110 South Jackson. The Lotus Early Learning is requesting a conditional use permit to establish a large childcare facility that's 21 or more children in the United Church of Moscow at 110 South Jackson Street. This facility would operate from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and it would provide full-day childcare to infants, toddlers, preschool age, and grade school children. little bit of background on this property in particular. As many of you know, this is the site of an older church building, a 1963 daycare and school addition, and a former residential building also used as a daycare. This location has been a daycare by organizations such as Success by Six, New Discoveries Play School, and the Learning Garden. City records show that New Discoveries Play School and Early Learning were both approved for conditional use permits in 2012 and 2016 respectively. This space currently is occupied by Lotus Early Learning Behavioral Intervention Program, which is an allowed use by right. Lotus Early Learning would like to become licensed as a daycare facility. But since the subject property has not been used as a daycare facility for the past 2 years, the applicant must acquire a new conditional use permit. So this is, the subject property is 0.36 acres on the southwest corner of First Street in Jackson. It's located, like I said, inside United Church of Moscow. Adjacent properties and uses are to the north, there is a larger apartment complex. Zions Bank is to the east. A planning and architecture firm with residential uses above is to the south, and residential office uses are across Jackson Street to the west. The property has vehicular access by way of a 20-foot wide public alley to the east side of the property. And First Street also provides 45-degree on-street parking for the surrounding uses. This is the subject property. Obviously, the apartment here is Zions Bank to the west, the architecture firm with residential uses above, and again, residential office over here. So there's a mixture of residence and offices across Jackson Street. Zoning of the property is central business. The subject property, which is to provide a location for grouping and compatible commercial uses having the common characteristics of not involving more than the incidental and minimal assembly, fabrications of storage or commodities. For example, establishments dispersing retail commodities and those providing professional and personal services to the individual, which a daycare would be one of those. Properties to the northeast and south of subject property are also zoned central business, and west across Jackson Street are the residential office zoning designations. This is a photo of the subject property from the front. As you're probably familiar, this is the church building here and the residential building that was built some years later. This is a view from First Street. This is the 45-degree on-street parking that was mentioned. So large child care facility standards require parking and loading zones. This particular location, because it is located within central business, is not required to provide any on-site parking. However, they are subject to the loading requirements of the child care section of the zoning code. They are required to provide 2 loading zone spaces in one of the following ways. Either on street, subject to the approval of the city engineer, where the space is reserved or otherwise generally available and which is located on the same side of the street as a childcare facility. Off street, where the travel path from the loading spaces to the facility entrance do not cross vehicular moving or in any travel areas, or other loading spaces as determined safe by the city engineer, considering existing streets and traffic conditions. The applicant has proposed using 2 conventional spaces at the rear of the building, accessed by the adjacent alley. Additional parking is available in a first come, first served manner off of adjacent to the north on First Street. This is the alley in which you would access the loading zones. And you can kind of see here, if you were to drive up the alley, this is where you'd kind of turn in. You'll see from the site planning here in a second to access those loading spaces. Additionally, childcare facilities are required to provide a fenced, fully contained, site-proofed play area outdoors. Site-proof fencing or site-proof landscaping needs to be provided at the perimeters of such outdoor play areas where necessary to protect the privacy of neighboring yards. The applicant has provided a site plan showing a fenced-in outdoor play area. And here is a site plan showing both of those, both the loading spaces here. They are showing 3 spaces in the rear, as well as this outdoor fenced play area. This is the proposed layout for the basement. I believe this portion is in the church building itself in the basement. Shows a number of classrooms and activity areas. Proposed layout for the interior of the main floor, so that would be the blue house next door. This would be the main floor. And this would be the upstairs floor. There's an office and some staff rooms. and a little bit of storage. So staff's recommendation tonight, because the proposal meets all of the zoning requirements of the Central Business Zoning District, staff's recommendation would be to approve the large childcare facility at 110 South Jackson Street with no conditions. And again, direct staff to prepare relevant criteria and standards based on your decision here tonight. And I would be happy to take any questions you have.
I have a couple. I actually remember doing the other daycares back in 2012 and 2016. What I don't remember were those for large, medium, or small daycares?
I believe the most recent was a large.
Okay,
I can't speak to the previous one, but I believe the most recent was a large.
okay. And then you answered my question as to why the 123 plan was in there. So daycare would occur in
Correct. The
actually
basement.
3 spaces, the 2 main floors and then the upper floor?
So it would be the basement of the church facility, and then the blue house, the main floor, and the upstairs. It appears that the upstairs is more staff rooms, and I think it was labeled with, staff room and an office, and a closet, looks like a hallway, some more storage. So it looks like the primary use is going to be the main floor of the blue building, and then the basement of the church.
Okay. And then just for clarification, I remember the significant thing of issue was the loading and unloading, and the spaces being used again required the backing up, which was supposedly you can't do,
Right.
but it was allowed anyway. And I'm assuming that the city engineer has approved this. So
Yeah,
There's
so
no point for us
these
to
loading
argue with them,
spaces
right?
meet those requirements.
Okay.
They're provided on site outside of the alley, and there's sufficient backing room in that alley area for those cars to back out safely. There's also a gate right here. So, whoops, where's my button? There we go. Looks like there's a gate right here. So students would access through the gate here if they're being dropped off in this loading zone. I would assume that if a parent were to drop off in this location, if there was something available, that there may be an entrance on the north side of the building. The applicant can probably speak a little bit more clearly to that.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Marshall?
Yeah, quick one, Amy.
Yeah.
Is there any problems or any zoning restrictions with a daycare being a certain number of feet from a business that serves alcohol?
So not from a zoning perspective. When they apply for their daycare license, the building official and the fire and the police department will go through all the licensing requirements, and there may be a requirement in that regard. I do know that since this has been used in the past, I think the closest establishment serving alcohol would be Mingles. And so I would assume that meets the requirement. But that's something that the police department as well as the fire marshal would take a look at when they approve their daycare licensing.
Great, thanks, Amy.
I have one more question. It says that large daycares can allow up to 21 or more. What does or more mean?
That would then go back to the daycare licensing through the state.
Okay.
Whatever their ratios allow for staff to child ratio. The additional consideration would be the outdoor play area. So I think state code specifies 100 square feet per child of outdoor play space. So it would be coupled underneath the daycare licensing through the state that would limit those numbers based on probably a staffing ratio in an outdoor play area.
Okay. So if anybody had concerns about the or more getting hundreds of kids downtown, really the play area is going to be the limitation for that.
Right, or the square footage, it really, that portion of it really falls under their daycare licensing. From a zoning perspective, they've met the outdoor fenced area, they've met the parking requirement, so we allow them to go. Now, safety-wise, that's where the building official and the fire marshal and the police department all come in because they look at that when they issue state licenses.
Okay.
I think the health department's even involved in there somewhere, but.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Of course.
And with that, we'll open up the public hearing. Would the applicant care to come up and tell us about your conditional use? And please state your name and address into the mic so that you're on the record.
Hi, I'm Jessie Davis, and my address is actually in New Hampshire. I just moved, so
Wow.
yes, I traveled a long way to be here.
For this meeting?
Yes, well, actually, at the center, but yes. And Michaela is with me here tonight. She runs the center, so. So when I took over Lotus Early Learning, I took it over from Learning Garden, and it was a childcare program. We chose not to continue to do childcare because getting licensed to do intervention is a big, heavy task. We have learned through the 4 years that we've been open that because of the transient nature of staffing in Moscow, because many people are students and move when they graduate, it has caused a barrier for our families. And so really what we're wanting a childcare license for is to be able to have our families be able to opt into childcare so that they have consistent services, so that they don't have to find additional care for their children if they don't have an intervention staff available. So we are not looking to open 100 childcare center. We primarily provide behavior intervention to children with disabilities or emotional or behavioral needs. And so our ratios are very low. And I should know this off the top of my head, but I believe we have maybe 10 children right now. So we don't serve even 21 children at this time. We would like to have some typically developing peers. So we would open for a couple of childcare slots, but we will only have one childcare teacher and the rest will be intervention staff. We also provide services in homes and communities and schools as well. We have school contracts with Moscow School District. So they're not always on site. She was correct. The stairs in the house are not, well, the house was built in the 1800s. And so it's not safe for children to go up and down. So we don't use the upstairs space for children. And the house will be used more for sensory and a quiet space for children with autism who need to have a little bit of time alone, whereas the church will have more of art, large motor, science, math, that sort of thing. So there'll just be different areas to provide service to the children.
Okay. Any questions? See none? Thank you. Does anybody care to come up and speak in favor of this application? Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Janice O'Toole, and I live in Colton, Washington. I am the program coordinator for the United Church of Moscow. And we approve and we like what they are looking to do. My personal background is in special education. And anytime you can have an integrated service, it is good for everyone. It's good for the typically developing children, and it's good for the children who need extra support. So we love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else care to come up and share, whether it's for, neutral, or against? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, open it up to the board. I'm definitely in favor. My daughter's looking for daycare, and quite frankly, in this area, waiting lists are a year plus. It's definitely a need. So when we start looking at the 7 criteria, it definitely, there's a need for it. It's within the comprehensive plan. This system's been a daycare in the past. Their services go above and beyond to services that aren't easily found. So, and the one issue over the years has been just safety in backing, and that's been addressed. It was never an issue. It's been adequately dealt with now. So I've said my piece. What else?
Well, and as far as the safety concerns, I mean, when I worked for the city, we did daycare inspections and pre-opening. And you had the fire marshal, you had the plumbing inspector, the building inspector, the health inspector, the electrical, everybody went through there and did their inspections before they were allowed to open. So they're definitely they've notched that box.
Other
I
comments?
agree
Thoughts?
with you, Joe. I think that the services that Early Lotus is, or Lotus Early Learning is providing are much needed services for our community, and especially given the history of this facility, providing a facility that serves the community in a similar manner, I don't see any issue with it.
It also sounds like it offers opportunities for the University of Idaho students to get some experience before they move on. And it sounds like it's good for the university also.
I would move that we approve the request for the conditional use permit without conditions and ask the staff to prepare the relevant criteria and standards.
All right, I have a motion.
I'll second.
I have a second. Start at the other end. Jerry?
Aye.
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 Aye. That is unanimous again. So we are done with this item.
Thank you for doing this. Thanks for coming all the way from New Hampshire, too.
We cooled it down just for you.
You're missing all the color back there?
Yeah, I've only been there a little over a year, and so, yes, the fall is.
Any other items or staff?
Next meeting is to be held
on Monday,
the 28th.
Two meetings,
That's actually next Monday, and that's here, correct?
two meetings,
At
right?
7. Yep, and then,
And the approval of relevant criteria and standards for both of these.
okay, so we'll actually do the approval for those minutes next Monday, correct? Okay.
What time is that?
7 o'clock Monday.
Well, but aren't we doing we're doing two meetings on Monday, right?
So it'll be one meeting, one hearing
Yeah.
in that meeting. So the relevant criteria and standards approval can be done at the 7 o'clock meeting. And you'll
Oh,
set up
yeah,
the public hearing.
The meeting that we normally have at 5:30, we're going to have.
Oh, okay. I
At
guess I still
7.
have it as two on my calendar. So,
This one.
oh, okay, good. But I want to make sure I can come to the right one. 7?
7, yeah.
Sorry, I know everybody else is ahead of me. but-
That's okay.
Following like that.
All right.
You can throw that one away when you get back to
If nothing else, I move to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Doesn't require a second. Just get
Thanks.
rid of it.
Then we're done for the evening. Go home and enjoy dinner.